Welcome back. Now the next matter to discuss in the Animal Farm series is literary devices and techniques, which will also comprise of symbols and motifs in the text. Now the first literary device I want to go through is a symbol I personally found quite interesting in the text, and after some research on the net I realized that I couldn't really find anything on this particular symbol, which means yay for me because I spotted something that'll be exclusive to my videos, and yay for you because having access to Learning Bird means that you get exclusive exposure to it. Shh, don't tell anyone else. So what I noticed in my reading of the text is that Orwell passes over time quite frequently, often skipping days, weeks, even months at a time. In the final chapter he even skips years. But the first time he does this in the text is when we hear of old Major's passing. Now listen closely. Major dies in March. Now in the northern hemisphere in which this is set, England, that means that Major died in spring. Now this wasn't obvious to me because I'm Australian and I'm in the southern hemisphere, but for most of you watching this might have been something you noticed. Now we know from the text that everything that occurs on the farm happens after Major's death, so in a way his death is the catalyst for everything that happens in the story. Now yes, he died in spring, and as many of you may or may not know, spring is the season of renewal. It's about new life. So even though Major dies, it symbolically marks the beginning of everything else that is about to transpire on the farm. The placement and timing of Major's death foreshadows the beginning of something else. It foreshadows a rebirthing on the farm, which we learn to be the rebellion. So Major's death is where it all started. It's very important. Now, a couple of the ones that you will find on the net are the symbols and metaphors like the windmill, the name Animal Farm, and the barn. Now, I'll go through these ones anyway because they're pretty simple and it'll save you the time of having to look them up yourself. So the windmill is a symbol for a couple things. Firstly, for the animal's triumph, because we all know how much they work and how much they struggle to build it and rebuild it and rebuild it. The debate that Snowball and Napoleon had over building it parallels Russia's debate over whether or not to expand communism. Now the windmill also doubles as a symbol for the manipulation on part of the totalitarian figures on the farm, that is the pigs, because we know that they're using the windmill as a means of getting the animals to work for them, and it's under the pretense that they're building a windmill and it'll benefit all the animals on the farm. We see that it's only the pigs that benefit from the windmill. However, the animals still believe that they will benefit from it also simply because they're told. The windmill is almost a totem that symbolizes power. But I'm sure you'll have discussions about that in your class, and like all things in the text, symbolism is contingent on interpretation. So don't for a second think that what I'm saying is the only thing that can be said about it. Speak, imagine, debate. Now the barn, as you all know, has the 7 commandments painted on the side and the words to Minimus's poem on another. A pretty clear interpretation is that the barn is something of a legal document on the farm, because once something goes up there, it's final, it's genuine, it's enforceable. Anyone that strays from the commandments is punished and even put to death. Once something is on the barn, it becomes ratified, it becomes official, or at least as official as something can be on a farm full of animals. The barn too then becomes a symbol of power, because whoever writes on the barn walls controls the legal system of the farm. Lastly, the name Animal Farm is quite bold, but the farm itself represents pretty much any human society, complete with a government, which is the pigs, a military force, which is the dogs, and the working class, which is all the other animals. It's a coherent society reflective of our own, and by using animals instead of people as the characters, I think that what Orwell was trying to do was provide commentary, or rather inspire commentary on historical events, but from a distance. I imagine having human characters would have gotten the text treated a lot differently back in the 40s when it was printed. Anyway, the other symbols in the text include Old Major's dream, the fall of Mr. Jones, the Battle of the Cowshed, Napoleon's initiatives on the farm, including all his slaughters, the hen rebellion when they are asked to sacrifice their eggs, Frederick's scheming with the whole purchasing of the timber with the forged money, the Battle of the Windmill, Boxer's death, and the final feast at the end of the text, during which the pigs become unrecognizable and synonymous with the humans. Now all of these you can find extensive research on. How do I know? Because I found this all on the internet myself pretty easily, and for that reason I won't waste your time here, but what I will say is that essentially all these events in the story provide parallels with historical figures and historical events, such as Joseph Stalin, Leon Trotsky, Karl Marx, Hitler, all of whom influenced or played a role in events like the Russian Revolution, the Russian Civil War, communism, the Great Purge, World War II, and the beginning of the Cold War. Now, just briefly, I'll give you an idea about some of the characters that also represent specific ideas. Now, Napoleon is a manifestation of Joseph Stalin, a Russian dictator that killed a whole bunch of people. Snowball is Leon Trotsky, someone who tried to convince Russia of another way that wasn't violence. Mr. Jones represents aristocratic order. Old Major is Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin. Squealer represents the press and how they can twist things like crazy. And Moses the Raven symbolizes organized religion. Remember how he was talking about Sugar Candy Mountain? Yeah, religion. Personally, I don't think you need to know a whole heap about all of that stuff, but having a general idea about that stuff can help you understand why the text was written. So remember those names I mentioned, remember those events, and look into them when you have the time. I couldn't possibly cover them all in these videos, so I'll have to trust that you'll do it yourself, if you find it necessary. I'll leave that to your discretion as well as your teachers. Now, something else I want to talk about is the role of songs in the text. Now, throughout the text, there are two songs. The first being Beast of England, which Old Major teaches and is about envisioning a time where the animals are in control of the land and they are free of those pesky humans. Eventually, this song dies after the expulsion of Snowball from the farm, and it is replaced with a poem written by one of the pigs, Minimus, who takes on a more prominent role after Snowball's expulsion. Now, instead of celebrating the notion of a human-free land where the animals have dominion, this new song celebrates Napoleon specifically and praises him to ridiculous proportions. And the words are even inscribed on the side of the barn with the 7 commandments. Now, the shift in the songs parallels the shift in the nature of the farm, and that is from a shared dream to a dictatorial slave prison. So right there you can see that the songs and the texts are a device that are used to reflect the nature of the farm, the shared mindset of the animals, as well as the common values that are being imposed upon them. Phew! Now that's all the time that I have today that I can spend on literary devices. I hope that was helpful. If it was helpful, please rate this video as helpful and do me a solid. Meanwhile, you can look for any other subjects you want to learn about on Learning Bird, or keep following this series on George Orwell's Animal Farm. See you next time.